March 15, 1943, 9:47 a.m. Recklinlerz Air Base, northern Germany. The spring sun illuminates something impossible in the heart of the Reich. A Boeing B-17F flying fortress, its American stars crudely painted with black Luftwaffe crosses, rests on the runway like a war trophy. Around it, Germany's top test pilots watch with a mixture of curiosity and disdain. Oberst Werner Baumbach, ace with 40 Allied bombers shot down, circles the captured American aircraft. His hands touch the cold metal of the 1350 caliber machine guns. He laughs. 13 guns, he tells the assembled officers. The Americans must be desperate. They turned a bomber into a porcupine. Dead weight. Waste of power. Major Theodor Roell, commander of the secretive KG-200 unit, agrees. Herr Oberst, our Bf-109 circle around these flying boxes. They're slow, heavy, predictable. The crews call them Vierfachmotoriges Flugzeug, four-engine targets. Baumbach climbs into the fuselage through the side door. The interior smells of oil, aluminum, and something else. Dried American blood, barely scrubbed from the walls. This particular B-17, serial number 4124585, nicknamed Wolf Hound by its original crew, had been forced to land in occupied France after being riddled with bullets over Bremen. Today, Baumbach announces, "We will dissect this so-called fortress. We will expose its weaknesses. Teach our pilots exactly where this American beast bleeds." He settles into the pilot's seat, his experienced hands finding the alien controls. The four Wright Cyclone R-1820 engines roar to life with a roar that echoes across the field. What they didn't know was that on that sunny March day, as they took off in that captured bomber, they were about to discover not the B-17's weaknesses, but why their own pilots were beginning to fear it. They were witnessing the birth of their own nightmare. Seattle, Washington, 1934. Boeing Factory, Plant 1. The air reeks of failure and financial despair. Boeing is on the brink of bankruptcy. The Model 299, the prototype of what would become the B-17, is being built with money the company doesn't have, betting on a military contract that may not come. Chief Engineer Edward Curtis Wells surveys the blueprints spread out on the table. The U.S. Army Air Corps called for a multi-engine bomber capable of carrying 2,000 pounds of bombs 2,000 miles. Boeing interpreted multi-engine in the most ambitious way possible. 4 engines. "This is crazy, Wells," protests engineer Robert Minchell. "Douglas and Martin are proposing twin-engine aircraft. Simpler, cheaper. We're proposing a 15-ton monster." Wells is unfazed. "Bob, we're not building for today's war. We're building for the war that's coming." The design is revolutionary and controversial. Structure: aluminum semi-monocoque, pioneering for the time wingspan, 31, 6 meters, larger than any existing American bomber initial defensive armament. 530 machine guns, later expanded to 1350, crucial innovation. Tail turret with 85-degree field of fire. But the real secret of the B-17 wasn't a feature, it was its philosophy. While German bombers like the Heinkel He-111 were designed for speed and maneuverability, sacrificing protection, the B-17 was a literal fortress. July 28, 1935. Wright Field, Ohio. First demonstration flight. The Model 299 rolls down the runway. The military observers are impressed. The aircraft climbs majestically, its 4 engines purring in harmony. Then, disaster. Test pilot Leslie Tower forgets to release the locked elevator controls. The bomber climbs abruptly, stalls and crashes. Tower and Major Pilot Peter Hill die in the crash. The Seattle Times reports, Boeing's 4-engine dream goes down in flames. The contract goes to the Douglas B-18 Bolo, which is inferior but safer. Boeing is ruined. But air power visionary General Frank Maxwell Andrews sees something others don't. He forces the purchase of 13 aircraft for evaluation. It's enough to keep the project alive. 1937-1940. Painful evolution. Each version of the B-17 fixes problems discovered in blood. B-17C, first combat version, sent to the British in 1941, total disaster. Of 20 aircraft, 8 were shot down in 2 weeks. RAF report, unsuitable for daylight operations over Europe. Insufficient defensive armament, vulnerable fuel tanks. The Germans shoot them down like ducks. B-17D, self-sealing tanks, additional armor, still inadequate. RAF Captain Hugh Gordon, it's a nice flying coffin. The German gunners appreciate the big, slow target. B-17E, the revolution. Sperry ball turret, ventral turret. Powered dorsal turret. Redesigned tail with dedicated gunner. But true transformation comes with combat insights. Major Paul Tibbets, future pilot of the Enola Gay, returns from Europe with a crucial observation. The Germans attack head-on. Our nose is blind. We need weapons there. Lots of weapons. B-17F. The monster matures. 50 caliber machine guns in the nose. Overlapping field of fire. Each gun capable of 850 rounds per minute. Armor-piercing incendiary ammunition. Boeing engineer Wellwood Beale calculates, a B-17F can put 13,000 rounds a minute into any attacker. It's a wall of lead. Internal critics protest. Colonel Lawrence Cooter argues, all this weaponry adds weight. It reduces range. It reduces bomb load. Are we building a fighter or a bomber? The answer comes from Curtis LeMay, then a young group commander. We're building a survivor. Dead, you don't bomb anything. But tests show serious problems. Excessive vibration of weapons freezing at high-altitude gunners, fainting due to lack of oxygen mid-air collisions during close formation, 25% loss rate on some missions, morale plummets. Crews call the B-17 the flying coffin. In October 1942, after the disastrous Schweinfurt mission where 60 of 291 B-17s are lost, General Ira Eaker privately admits, maybe the Germans are right. Maybe daylight bombing is suicide. No one imagined that this flying coffin, ridiculed by friends and foes alike, was about to become the most feared machine in the skies over Europe. The secret wasn't in one feature, it was in all of them working together. August 17th, 1942. Rouen, France. First American heavy bombing mission over Europe. 18 B-17Es of the 97th Bombardment Group approach the target. General Ira Eaker personally leads the way in the Yankee Doodle. The escort of British Spitfires turns for home, out of range to continue. The B-17s are alone. Hauptmann Hans Ossi Hahn, commanding JG-2, observes the American bombers from his FW-190. He broadcasts to his pilots, tight formation, lots of weapons, attack head-on, steep dive. The first German pass is devastating. The B-17 American Beauty is hit in the nose. The navigator is decapitated by the 20mm round. Blood covers the windshield. But then something unexpected happens. The B-17s don't break formation. They don't scatter. Each aircraft's 13 machine guns create interlocking fields of fire. Lieutenant Rudolf Flanz's FW-190 explodes 500 meters from the target. Hahn tries another pass. The 50 caliber tracers form a tunnel of fire. He dodges at the last second, feeling the bullets graze his fuselage. Mein Gott, he mutters. It's like attacking a metal hedgehog. But the numbers don't lie. 2 B-17s shot down, 4 severely damaged. Only half of the bombs hit their target. The German report is triumphant. The American bombers have proven to be vulnerable and inaccurate. Their close formation only makes our concentrated attacks easier. Hermann Goering, head of the Luftwaffe, laughed as he read the report. Do the Americans think they can bomb the Reich in broad daylight? With those flying boxes? Let them come. My boys need target practice. October 14th, 1943. Black Thursday. Second raid on Schweinfurt. 291 B-17s attack the ball-bearing factories. The Luftwaffe launches everything. Bf-109s, FW-190s, Bf-110s, even Ju-88 bombers modified with heavy cannons. The massacre is total. 60 B-17s shot down, 17 scrapped after landing, 121 damaged, 594 airmen dead or missing. Oberleutnant Heinz Knoke writes in his diary, "It was like a slaughterhouse. The Americans flew straight and level, letting us choose our attack points. Their machine guns are annoying but predictable. I shot down 3 today." A surviving American gunner, Sergeant James McLaughlin, reports, "They were coming from all directions. As soon as we took one down, 2 would appear. Our guns overheated. We ran out of ammunition. It was hell." The German press celebrates. The Völkischer Beobachter proclaims, "Alleged American flying fortress proved vulnerable. Luftwaffe rules the skies." December 12, 1942. Leeuwarden, Netherlands. Fate intervenes in the form of a navigation error. A B-17F Wolfhound of the 303rd Bombardment Group, damaged over Bremen, attempts to return to England. Loss of fuel. 2 engines dead. The pilot, Lieutenant John McCrary, desperately searches for a place to land. Through the clouds, he sees an airfield. It looks English. He descends. Only when he touches the ground does he realize his mistake. Black crosses on the parked aircraft. He tries to take off again, but it's too late. German vehicles surround the B-17. Oberst Theodor Rovale of KG-200, a secret unit specializing in captured aircraft, can hardly believe his luck. An intact B-17F, complete with manuals, maps, and radio codes. "Take it to Rechlin," he orders, immediately. Rechlin Lehrts, Luftwaffe Test Center. January-March 1943. For 3 months, Germany's top pilots and engineers dissect the Wulfe Hound. What they discover shocks them. Major Heinrich Prinz Susanne Wittgenstein, a night ace with 83 victories, was the first to fly the captured B-17. His report is revealing. I expected a flying truck. I found a war machine. The controls are heavy but precise. The visibility is exceptional. But the weaponry, he pauses, choosing his words carefully. Defensive armament is a work of engineering. Every gunner's position is optimized. Fields of fire are mathematically calculated. There are no blind spots above 1,000 meters. The tests continue. German fighter pilots make simulated passes while Luftwaffe gunners, trained on American positions, try to track them. The results are disturbing. Back tower, 360-degree horizontal, 90-degree vertical coverage. Ventral turret completely eliminates attacks from below side positions. Overlapping fields prevent side attacks. Tail, 85-degree pitch makes rear attacks suicidal. Nose, up to 5 flexible machine guns on later B-17G. Hauptmann Heinz Baer, an ace with 220 victories, tests simulated attacks. After 2 hours, he lands. Pale. It's impossible, he tells Baumbach. No matter the angle, there are always at least 3 guns pointed at you, and the 50 caliber ones, he shakes his head. Effective range of 1,000 meters, twice as much as our MG-131s. But the real revelation comes when they simulate combat in formation. March 15, 1943. The litmus test. 3 Ju-88s fly in formation like B-17s. German fighters attack using standard tactics. The result is shocking. When the bombers maintain close formation, their combined fields of fire create a 2,000-meter radius bubble of death. Statistically, an attacking fighter has a 70% chance of being hit before reaching the effective range of its weapons. General Adolf Galland, Inspector General of Fighter Aircraft, personally observes the test. He remains silent for several minutes afterward. Finally, he says, "We completely underestimated the Americans. It's not an aircraft, it's a weapons system. Every B-17 protects the others. It's brilliant." The final test report, classified as Geheim Kommandosache, top secret, concludes, the B-17 represents a fundamentally different combat philosophy. While our aircraft depend on speed and maneuverability for survivability, the B-17 depends on mutually supported firepower. In formation, 12 B-17s can put 156,000 rounds per minute into the surrounding airspace. It is effectively a flying fortress. May 1943. JG-1 Headquarters, Diemen, Netherlands. The shift in German attitudes is palpable. In the bars where pilots gather, B-17s are no longer a joke. They are the subject of tense conversations, desperate tactics, and recurring nightmares. Oberleutnant Heinz Knoke writes in his diary, "We used to call them Möbelwagen, moving trucks. Now we call them fliegende Stachelschweine, flying porcupines. Every mission against them is Russian roulette." June 8, 1943, Bremen. Lieutenant Wolfgang Spath of JG-11 makes his first attack against a B-17 formation. He chooses what appears to be an easy target, a lagging B-17 with a smoking engine. He dives from 2,000 meters above sea level at maximum speed. At 1,000 meters, the tracers begin, not only from the wounded B-17, but from 2 others that slowed down to protect him. It was like flying into a wall of light, he would recall. Every 5th bullet was a tracer. The sky was streaked with red lines. I felt the impact. Thump, thump, thump. 50 caliber bullets piercing my armor. Spath manages to fire a quick burst and escape. His Bf-109 has 47 bullet holes. The engine is leaking oil. He makes an emergency landing. The B-17 keeps flying. The statistics of terror, the numbers tell the story. 1942. Kill rate of German fighter pilots attacking B-17s. 4% mid-1943, 11% end of 1943, 19% 1944, with B-17G and fighter escort. 31% Major Hans-Günther von Kornatzky, commander of 2. JG-1 grimly calculates, the life expectancy of a rookie pilot attacking B-17s is 6 missions. The sound of fear. German veterans develop symptoms of what we would now call PTSD. Obergefreiter Friedrich Ungar describes the sound. I'll never forget the sound. First, the deep roar of 48 engines approaching. Then, as we attacked, the rattle of machine guns. 13 per plane. Sometimes 100 planes. It's like the sky itself is ripping apart. Pilots report recurring nightmares. Always the same. Endless lines of B-17s, each with machine gun eyes, all firing. Impossible to escape. July 27, 1943, Hamburg, Operation Gomorrah. For the first time, the B-17s aren't just surviving, they're destroying. 700 bombers in successive waves. The city burns for 3 days. Oberstleutnant Dietrich Peltz, bomber inspector, visits Hamburg after the raid. He telegraphs to Goering, "Nothing left, 45,000 dead. The B-17s did this." How can we call them vulnerable when they do this? The admission. In August 1943, at a secret conference in Rastenburg, General Galland makes a shocking admission to the High Command. "My men, I must be frank, the B-17, especially in combat formation, represents the most effective defensive weapons system we have ever faced. Our losses are unsustainable." Goering explodes. "Are you saying we can't defeat American bombers? The Luftwaffe that conquered Europe?" Galland calmly responds, "I'm saying that every B-17 shot down costs us on average 1.5 fighters. They can replace B-17s faster than we can replace experienced pilots." The silence in the room is sepulchral. The final testimony. The most revealing moment comes from Major Wilhelm Moritz, who flew the captured B-17 in combat tests. "Gentlemen, I've flown in our bombers and in American bombers. The difference is philosophical. We built bombers to attack. They built bombers to survive attack. And in a war of attrition, survival wins." He pauses, looking around at the grim faces. "Every American gunner has a perfect field of fire. Ammunition is plentiful. The turrets are hydraulic, smooth, accurate, fast. An average gunner in a B-17 is more dangerous than an ace in our bombers. And there's something else," he continues. "Something psychological. When you attack a B-17, you see the gunners. You see their faces through the plexiglass. They don't dodge. They don't panic. They just aim and fire, methodically, like machines. It's terrifying." October 1943. General Staff Conference, Berlin. The debate transcends tactics. It becomes philosophical. General Oberst Hans Jaschonek, chief of the Luftwaffe General Staff, articulates the dilemma. The B-17 represents something we didn't initially understand. It's not technological superiority. Our aircraft are technically superior. It's systemic superiority. The Americans have turned quantity into quality. Professor Hermann Blank from the Braunschweig Aeronautical Institute elaborates. The Luftwaffe was built on the doctrine of blitzkrieg, quick, decisive war. Our aircraft are racehorses. The B-17 is a draft ox. But when you have 1,000 oxen armed with steel horns, the cultural contrast. The conflict reveals fundamental differences between German and American philosophies. Germany, emphasis on individual excellence. Pilots as modern knights, sophisticated technology, limited production, quality over quantity. America, emphasis on mass production. Aviation as an industrial system. Robust technology, unlimited production. Quantity has its own quality. Major Günther Rahl, ace with 275 victories, reflects, "We trained pilots for years. Each one was an artist. The Americans? They trained gunners in weeks. But when you're pitted against 100 mediocre gunners with excellent guns versus one artist with an excellent gun, numbers win." The relentless mathematics. In September 1943, Albert Speer, Minister of Armaments, presented devastating figures. German fighter production, 1,000-month losses attacking B-17s, 400-month American B-17 production, 500-month B-17s lost, 100-month. "It's simple math," Speer concludes. "We're bleeding faster than they are, and they haven't even started full production." The doctrinal revolution. The B-17 forces the Luftwaffe to revolutionize its tactics. Sturmböcke, heavily armored FW-190s for close-in attacks, Raketen, air-to-air rockets for breaking formations. Weil Dessau, night tactics adapted for daytime Kommandogerät, radio-coordinated attacks. But every innovation encounters American counter-innovation. Closer formations, long-range escort, P-51 Mustang, chaff to confuse radar, increased frontal armament, B-17G with chin turret, General der Jagdflieger. Adolf Galland admits in his memoirs, "The B-17 forced us to evolve, but it was an evolution of desperation. Each new tactic was riskier, more costly in lives. We were fighting not an aircraft, but an industrial system that could absorb losses that would destroy us." The American human factor. Colonel Curtis LeMay, commanding the 3rd Air Division, articulates the American philosophy. "We don't need heroes, we need procedures. Every man does his job, follows the manual, trusts the system." The B-17 isn't about individual bravery. It's about collective discipline. This mentality, the industrialization of war, is alien to the Luftwaffe, raised on Prussian traditions of individual martial excellence. The fortress paradox. Hauptmann Heinz Knoke captures the paradox in his diary. "The B-17 is everything we despise, heavy, slow, inelegant. But it is also everything we lack, durable, reproducible, effective. It is democracy made into aluminum and steel, ugly, noisy, unstoppable." February 25, 1944. Big Week, Day 6. The Luftwaffe launches its last concentrated effort against American bombers. Every available fighter scrambles. 5-year war veterans stand alongside teenagers with 10 hours of flight time. The sky over Regensburg becomes an aerial slaughterhouse. Oberst Werner Baumbach, the same man who laughed at the 13 machine guns in March 1943, personally leads an attack. His Me-410 is equipped with 50mm cannons specifically for destroying B-17s. He chooses his target, a brand new B-17G, shiny silver with no name on the nose yet. He dives from 3,000 meters. At 2,000 meters, the first traces rise. He ignores them. At 1,500 meters, his rear gunner yells, "Mustangs, 6 o'clock!" At 1,000 meters, 3 50-caliber rounds pierce his left engine. At 500 meters, he fires. The 50mm cannon roars. The B-17 disintegrates. Victory and death in seconds. Baumbach tries to escape. Too late. Bullets from the Mustang and B-17 converge. His Me-410 explodes 200 meters from the destroyed B-17. The man who laughed at the flying fortress dies in his arms. The final cost. The big week ends. Luftwaffe, 355 pilots killed, including 100 experienced. USAAF, 247 bombers lost, but 2,600 crew rescued. Most importantly, German fighter production never recovered. Factories destroyed. Experienced pilots killed. Morale broken. April 1945. The end. Oberstleutnant Heinz Baer, now commanding the last Me-262 jet fighters, makes a final interception of B-17s over Berlin. Even with jets, the result is the same. The B-17s maintain formation. The machine guns fire in a disciplined manner. 2 Me-262s are shot down by defensive fire. Baer lands and finds a young pilot, 17-year-old Fenrik Friedrich Fischer, shivering in the dispersal. "Herr Oberstleutnant, how do they do it? How do they keep coming? We shoot them down and they keep coming." Baer looks to the sky, where hundreds of contrails mark another wave of B-17s. "They keep coming," he answers wearily, "because they can. Because for everyone we take down, 2 appear. Because they turned war into production and production into victory." May 8, 1945. Surrender. In Flensburg, General Galland signs Luftwaffe surrender documents. An American officer, Colonel John Meyer, asks, "General, what was the moment you knew the war was lost?" Galland thinks for a moment. "When we tested the captured B-17 at Rechlin. When we realized that you had turned a bomber into a fortress, and fortresses into squadrons, and squadrons into a storm of steel. You didn't build a better aircraft, you built a better system." Epilogue, the judgment of history. In 1960, German and American veterans gathered in Munich for an aviation symposium. Werner Rohwedel, a survivor, now a retired general, met Curtis LeMay, now Chief of Staff of the USAF. "General LeMay," Rohwedel says, "a question has been nagging at me for 15 years. Did you know how effective the B-17 defenses were?" LeMay smiles. "Not at first. We thought we needed all those guns because we were bad at aiming. We only discovered they worked when you started falling out of the sky." Rohwedel shakes his head. "We laughed when we saw all those machine guns. Dead weight, we said. Waste, we said. And now? Now we know. It wasn't dead weight. It was deadly mathematics. Every gun multiplied by every plane multiplied by every formation. It was an equation we couldn't solve. The final truth." British historian Richard Overy would write, "The B-17 did not win the war by being the best aircraft. It won by representing a system of warfare that Germany could not match. Mass production, standardized training, distributed firepower, and the transformation of quantity into irresistible quality." But perhaps the most honest assessment comes from the recovered diary of a German tail gunner, Unteroffizier Karl Miller, killed in 1944. "They taught us that courage wins wars, that skill wins wars, that will wins wars. The Americans and their B-17s taught us differently. Production wins wars. Systems win wars. Math wins wars. And in the end, 13 machine guns times 1,000 bombers is a math that no courage can defeat. The echo through time. They laughed when they saw the 13 machine guns. Flying porcupine, they mocked. Moving truck, they ridiculed. Dead weight. They stopped laughing when the sky filled with tracers. They stopped breathing when they realized that each B-17 protected the other, that each formation was a greater fortress, that each mission brought more fortresses than the last. They tested a captured B-17 hoping to find weaknesses. They found their own death sentence, because the B-17 wasn't just an aircraft, it was a philosophy, a declaration, an industrial argument that in modern warfare, the system trumps the hero, production trumps skill and quantity, applied correctly, becomes supreme quality. Werner Baumbach laughed at the 13 machine guns in March 1943. In February 1944, the machine guns laughed back. with bullets. The thunder of 13,000 rounds per minute spoke, and the sky never belonged to the Luftwaffe again.